Hello and welcome to another episode of Sustainability Spotlight. I'm your host, Lavanya, and today we have a truly inspiring guest who has been at the forefront of sustainability and renewable carbon policy, Dr. Ivana Krkljuš from BASF. Ivana is not only a sustainability strategist, but also an entrepreneur, a keynote speaker, and an author. She has worked on key initiatives like the EU Ecolabel and is a driving force behind the evolution of circular economy projects. Ivana, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for your kind invitation. I'm happy to be here and happy to be here also for your audience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ivana. And since you have had such an impressive career, I'm sure our listeners would also love to hear more about your journey. You've worked extensively on the advocacy of the EU eco-label criteria, especially for lubricants, and now that is transforming into the ESPR or the Eco Design for Sustainable Products Regulation. So, can you take us back to the early days? What was it like being part of the multi-stakeholder revision process in 2018? And how did you navigate the different perspectives, let's say from manufacturers, from NGOs, and from government bodies altogether?
Yeah, indeed. Indeed, back in 2018, actually, the JRC, the Joint Research Center of the European Commission, which is actually having a role of independent evidence-based research collector and supporter for formulation of EU policies, has initiated the process of revision of European eco-label for lubricants at the time. This is something that is a standard approach whenever a revision of a law needs to take place. Or in that particular case, it was related to the labels. It is typically done in a multi-stakeholder approach. There are representatives from industry, there are manufacturers, but also government bodies, NGOs involved, because one is trying actually to make a balanced revision in terms of collecting all the necessary feedback, understanding also not only scientific aspects, but also going for applicability of such model. And this is very important. I had a privilege, also an honor to be part of that process. Nowadays, also after many years, I'm basically executing a similar role, not on eco-label at this point of time on different legislation, but it's also a very, very engaging process.
That's fascinating, and it sounds like a real balancing act to bring all stakeholders together. And speaking of balancing, product labeling has played such a big role in influencing consumer behavior, right? So, why do you think product labeling like the EU Eco Label is so crucial when it comes to driving sustainable choices?
EU Ecolabel itself, I think that it has potential to develop further. To my understanding, I think that consumers also need to be more aware of these labels, and one label is successful only if when you see the product which is carrying the label, if this is automatically driving you to buy, because label should reflect your ethical choices, and it should reflect in this case environmental and social actually responsibility that is directly linked to the label. Labeling itself is a very good mechanism, I think very important mechanism, and especially targeted toward consumers. But it also needs to be credible. It needs to be given enough time in order to kind of live with the audience and with its own target audience, and it needs to be accepted. And I think this is something that is a very long-standing process of bringing consumers to believe in certain label, and one needs to do this also credibly. If I may connect this to something that you asked at the very beginning, to my understanding, the Eco Design Directive framework regulation will have a decisive role also going forward, especially for industries as well, for development of products, for innovation. However, I think that EU Ecolabel will also, in parallel, exist and especially be allocated to products which had special credibility. I have seen also this year that European Commission has launched further revision of eco labels. In particular, it was the for textile products where they wanted to look at the broad spectrum of categories, emphasizing sustainable fiber production, reduction of pollution during manufacturing, strict limits of hazardous substances, durability questions, and so on and so on. And I think this is something that is happening also from time to time for different product groups. Uh, and in best case, then these initiatives are actually running in parallel and are harmonized with each other. And then the producers who comply with ESPR going forward would be able to automatically comply with some of the EU Ecolabel requirement for their own product.
All right. So this is again bringing back our multi-stakeholder approaches that labeling labeling is catering and making consumers more powerful, empowering consumers to make more informed decisions, and also standardizing it for industry and manufacturers as well, so that they can bring out their products and really and inform the consumers of what their environmental outcomes of the products that they manufacture will be. The, now, shifting gears a little bit, Ivana, renewable and recycled feedstocks have been getting a lot of attention in recent years. You just mentioned, about a few products. So, from your perspective, what has the industry's acceptance of these feedstocks been like? What's working, and what are some of the challenges we're still facing?
I think that question of feedstock actually has many layers, and I think if you position this from the point of view that many companies are targeting to reach their climate neutrality goals the same way that we do, and we know that the majority or the biggest percentage of Scope 3 emissions, 60 to 80%, is coming actually from Scope 3 upstream, which means from raw materials. And there are several levers how you can actually do the reduction. One big portion also comes with utilization of renewable raw materials due to the assimilation of biogenic carbon. And we had examples where we have brought such products to the markets. And we also especially utilize the mass balance chain of custody model in order to uh, produce products which with reduced carbon footprint via attribution of feedstock. However, I have to say at the present point of time where industry is and where market is, it is basically I see three obstacles at the moment. And they're, on one hand, customer willingness to buy. And I think that this is something that is being developing also over time. Because I think the more customers have an understanding actually about sustainability, about the offering, I think there is more receptiveness also to these products. However, the second pillar is readiness to pay. And I think this is at the present point of time where many companies need to prioritize their immediate cost savings in very economically challenging climate. Willingness to pay premium for such products which have alternative raw materials is limited. Um, because it comes on top of costs that they already had, which is completely understandable. And I think this is why it's even more important to be very wise also in marketing efforts, in how products are being placed and presented, in understanding also what is it customer needs and how to fulfill those needs so that your product also come to certain acceptance. And the third very decisive and important pillar is actually regulatory environment. And the regulatory environment at the moment is not actually the one which is really to full extent supporting also product placement. I know that it's not difficult. I see a lot of bright ideas. I have to say, I'm not a person who would criticize actually in general any concept. And I think if you if you read also the new legislations, then you understand that the legislators are trying to develop one complete new environment. And there is a lot of innovation there in proposals that they are making. However, the problem is that at the moment where it is very difficult to make this huge stretch towards fulfilling goals that are actually planned for 2050. So we need also to go stepwise. And we need to create environment which is motivating also consumers, which is motivating customers and also producers to start also with bringing more products, more concrete offerings to the market, but they also need to be rewarded for that. And that is also something that is mirroring, so to say, the circular economy. You need the whole circle to work together in order to catalyze actually the change that we all need. And finally, exactly related to what we discussed at the beginning, Ecolabel, this is very decisive point. You need consumers who understand the offering, that is presented to them in a credible way, in its easy way that they can understand. And also they need to be receptive to these products. They also need to be willing to buy more sustainable products.
Right, right. So it is going to be like a mix of market incentives and regulations. A market incentive will be actually a part of regulations. For example, Ecolabel, which is informing end users, consumers, which in turn are incentives, are passing on those incentives to customers, to producers who are looking at really making, being compensated, or I wouldn't say compensated, but being, seeing the market value in moving towards more sustainable practices and producing more sustainable products. So, to your points, Ivana, the point number 1 and 2, what one thing that really stood out about the in your answer, and also something that is, a common theme in your career as well, is how you have managed to combine the commercial growth or business growth with science-based abilities. And it's not very often that we see that blended skills. And then what advice would you give to a sustainability professional looking to create commercial value, or to sales experts trying to drive sustainability within their companies? And I see that your cat is agreeing with me that your career has been a 10 with the two. So please enlighten us.
Yes, I have one guest in the room. My mommy cats. Yeah. So if you hear something in the background, then you know it's coming from her. Um, First of all, thank you. Also, I think that is a compliment, and I also want to encourage everyone um, who is thinking about career in sustainability to consider the following. There are different roles that one can have, and I think that the problem a little bit with the topic, what is really sustainability and what is really under this job. You can do sustainability reporting, for example, that is now being more in focus, that is more being developed. You can be a specialist in a certain topic. Sustainability advocacy is one point, but then there you can be a specialist in circular feedstock. You can be in carbon management topics, also a specialist. There is really a set of things that you can focus on, because it is a lot of content, and I think um, what what some usually neglect is that sustainability for me is a knowledge economy. And if one steps in, then you need to be ready to keep learning all the time. I heard also terms of people labeling each other as sustainability expert. To my understanding, that doesn't exist. You can be specialist in certain thing. You can be a sustainability manager who is trying to oversee a lot of topics, and that is needed, for example, if you are in a customer facing role, because you get really a set of different questions and you want to do your best for your customer. And that was always my drive. I have to say, my personal passion, and I hope I will be rewarded at some point again to have a chance to work more closely with customers. I had a pleasure working with some key accounts and some even smaller customers. Regional customer are my fuel actually to work further. And basically, for me, this is how I have perceived my role. And now you will see a guest speaker here as well. This is how I perceived my role also previously. For me, sustainability itself, um, um, in sustainability role, I have perceived myself as a consultant, and I was learning also from sales team, from the way that they behaved. And I was reading a lot, I have to say, not only about sustainability, but for me, the most important was regarding the role itself, to understand that it has a lot to do with emotional intelligence, with active listening. I was curious, and I was hopefully also charismatic toward customers. But I think also the set of analytical skills and psychology, and ability to also adapt to discussion, to guide the discussion, and maybe help sales team close the deal was really something that was important, and that was helping me as well in that role. Um, I think it is also has to do a lot with my personal approach to life and things. And I think now more than ever, we are in something that I would call servant leadership. We need to make sure that customer comes first. And I was listening carefully to their needs. I was also from benefiting from my emotional intelligence to understand actually when what are those unspoken needs, what is that they are not articulating, but when the offer is coming or not properly toward my recipients. I was looking forward also to build long-term relationships, and I think that this is something that helps. On the other hand, for the ones who are in the expert role, I still think that it's important to have this mindset, that you need everything that you learn and do needs to be geared towards success. And maybe I can give you a concrete example related to something we discussed before. I'm now not so strongly focused on ESPR developments. I follow this to a certain extent because I'm personally interested. And I will say why. Because for me, whenever I see a law, um, I see a potential, actually, the business potential. Because I don't think that you need to be directly in a customer facing role to observe the market developments, to anticipate your customer expectations, and to understand their pain and their needs before they even know about it. So following the laws and the needs, and if you read also carefully, then you know exactly what the marketing claims will be for the future, how you can differentiate yourself compared to competitors, and so on. And I think this is how a role should be approached, also from the expert point of view. As I said, you have to keep learning. You have to be informed about upcoming developments. You cannot know them all. No one can. But you need to be able to grasp from the most important concepts. You need to know where to find the information which you need at some point. And I think also, to a certain extent, you need also a good network of colleagues with whom you can collaborate well, and also external fora. And I think this is something that people sometimes neglect. That sustainability is also changing the way we collaborate and communicate with others. And we need more strong to work together to build alliances in order to understand also what the future markets will be.
This is you put it really beautifully here, Ivana, and I absolutely love how you emphasized the need of both emotional intelligence and technical knowledge. It's really about connecting the dots between what your what your customers are wanting, what is their need, what the market demands are, and and sustainability. It's really about empathizing and understanding even before they feel the need for it. And if you are able to do that, you will really emerge as a leader. And I know you have also been a leader in pioneering circular economy projects, talking about leadership. So you have taken these concepts from theory to practice. So can you share with us one of your most rewarding experiences working on circular economy initiatives?
Um, there were a couple of projects that I was involved at. There were some that I was leading and some where I was acting as a consultant. I have to say one that particularly makes me happy is I was not very long working on that project, but actually it was something that was running already for some time, and it was seeing its sunset days. And then I also have to say I benefited is particularly also from one, but actually it was a very good team of enthusiasts. And we managed also to let's say shift the focus, shift the focus of application, and then also approach different customers and completely spin off the destiny of that project. And that is why I also think it's really important to have also the team of enthusiasts and to understand that sustainability for me is we are in a new business development and you need to have this startup mindset. You need to fail fast. You need to succeed soon. And you need to build also certain resilience. So you need to learn from those failures quickly and then power us also towards success. And and there is no actually failure. It is just a stepping stone towards something else. And I think this is something that everyone needs to accept and understand. And this is why I keep saying we are not only in the knowledge economy, but for simpler economy projects, all of a sudden you actually need to talk to your customers in a different way because now they are your project partners. And I was working on such projects as well. So you have to build trust that even if I let me just give one simple example: life cycle assessment. If you want to create a cradle to gate life cycle assessment, then you have to know actually you have to be willing to give your data to your direct customer. And they need to give you information about the use space of the product, and then you need to know what happens at the end of the product. And the similar thing is in the circular economy. So typically, uh, if you are at the beginning of the value chain, that you are not, then you are not the one who is facing the consumer, and there are many customers in between who actually need to bring this substance to their formulation until it reaches the end product. And this is why you need to collaborate more. But then you need to collaborate with retailers, with distributors. If you want to really have a true circular feedstock, then you have to talk to the ones who are collecting that feedstock at the end of the value chain and who are reprocessing that and then building again and bringing to the beginning of the value chain. And this is not something that we had now. In Definitely there are more highlight examples than that. That's a regular praxis, and I think that is one of the big differences. And I have to say, I personally also benefited from getting to know a leader actually at a time in business that I visited. Julia Frey was her name, is her name actually, and she inspired innovation. She was, I have to say, also a driving force in the organization. She was also someone who was inspiring us to question the status quo and to go beyond business as usual. And I have to say, she was one of these leaders that I admired a lot because she was helping the team as well. I heard also once expression from another leader who says you need to be there in the mud on the ground, and that is really true. You need to be ready to take on the project and do whatever it takes to bring this to success. And as I said, if it's not going, you stand up again and stand up again. And I think this is sometimes that something that startups also are experiencing probably a lot in their work. They go through a lot of struggles, but I think at the end it makes you so resilient and so robust that for the next experience you are even more ready and prepared.
I agree. I agree. So every time you fail, you have this newfound enthusiasm for the next experiment, because how can this fail again? And it is more, it's always your motivation at the end, and not something that is drawing you down. And this is absolutely incredible to hear how embracing change and pushing boundaries, and even sometimes, just the simple concept of looking at your customers not just as your customers but as your partners, as somebody who you will want to work together in really bringing out the success stories that we want. So this is how I believe that everything collaboration communication is going to evolve for us to really achieve our sustainability outcomes. Uh, Finally, I know that I've got some golden nuggets from our conversations already, but I'd love to bring another one, touch on something that you've already recently it stuck with me is what you said, measure what you treasure. You have introduced this phrase during a panel discussion at the Renewable Materials Conference earlier this year. Can you tell us a little more about this concept and how it relates to life cycle assessments and product carbon footprints?
Yeah, I mean that is the expression that I used at one conference where I was invited to give keynote lecture, and then later actually I organized the panel as well. It was a very good discussion, I have to say, with the prominent experts from the field. And my idea was for that panel to actually mirror the entire value chain. And I managed to motivate some of the really brilliant people to join that discussion. And my idea was the following. It was a lot about these discussions, market readiness, willingness to pay, and just as you know, you cannot see, but I'm cuddling my cat actually, which is who found at the moment a little bit of peace on the table. And it is, I think this is something that everyone is discussing about. Everyone is puzzled also, and I think it is a lot of there are people who are extremely motivated and others also, where I am one of them. But it's also sometimes I have to say I was experiencing also frustrating moments where you feel that you are too motivated and that there is no response maybe to this motivation in the way that you would expect or you would hope for. And product carbon footprint is for me one of the KPIs, one of the properties that now everyone knows. I think it is a little bit pity that other environmental categories are neglected, but nevertheless, it is the one that everybody knows and talks about. But it is also a property that is, it's a virtual property. And the number itself depends also on the standards that you apply, on the way that you calculate. There is also different precision in the calculation and so on. And it is also something that you um, also give as a number to sales team who then needs this to bring this to the to customer and to monetize maybe a product which now have reduced carbon footprint. And that is also not an easy task to do because they also do not have a lot of this special knowledge actually about this, about standards and everything, which is why sustainability is, as I said, a knowledge economy. You need to keep learning all the time. To your son being able to advise your sales team, or even if you're in front of customer to answer their question. And I think product carbon footprint, where the difficulty at the moment is, it is not standardized the way it's measured globally. There are even in Europe different standards. They are general ISO standards, but sometimes they are broad and not specific enough that they can be used as this. And then you actually, as an industry, need to develop something that is more specific. And we did also for chemical industry in the initiative Together for Sustainability, also develop rules how to calculate. And the reason is because you want to set also a benchmark. You want to be compared with your peers on the same level playing field. And this is why it is extremely important first, to have a transparency, to measure something in order actually to define its own value. And once you have done that, then the next step is how to reduce actually then further, and how to make sure that this dynamic number, and this is again a big difference compared to other properties of the product, that you um, manage to steer that in a way that your customer then has an offer of reduced product carbon footprint after a certain amount of time, and that you help him achieve his own goals. And I think this is something that people tend to forget. It is not a property that is quality related, like, for example, viscosity, that you always tries to keep on the same level. And it gives you then a certain feeling about the product quality itself. This is a dynamic number, and it's intentionally actually supposed to be reused. And the difficulty with with DAX actually in Europe is also when the legislations are changing, or when recommendation on how to calculate something is changing, then of course the number is reset again and is changing again.
Yeah. Those definitely are some real time problems that everyone is going through. But I'm sure that we will reach a plateau where everyone would have settled with a number, and then it just becomes easier. But that's a great perspective, and it really puts the importance of transparency first, and accuracy in sustainability data into focus. So this is great, and Ivana, this conversation has isn't so enlightening, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and experience with us today. I am sure our audience is will learn a lot by hearing from your personal experiences and how you have grown as a leader in the field. I would also like to highlight how Ivana mentioned how she has been open about taking up conversations and roles which would indirect collaboration with the sales teams, with the commercial teams, also talking to customers. That an outsider or stakeholder perspective always brings more value to your own expertise or specialization in a particular thing. Thank you so much, Ivana. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Sustainability Spotlight. Be sure to follow us for more conversations with leaders in sustainability. And until next time, keep striving for a greener future.
Thank you as well for these wonderful questions, and thank you for allocating the time. I wish everyone, yeah, I wish everyone a lot of success actually in your endeavors.
Thank you.